the Primitive Patterns Podcast. It's time to live your mystery. All right, welcome back to episode 9 of the Primitive Patterns Podcast. Boys, how are we doing today? Little midday podcast.
Yeah, this should have been a UFC episode because we just about fought 2 seconds before this one, but we'll keep her going.
This guy needs to keep his mic cord still, or else you're going to be hearing that in the audio. This guy gets in my dome sometimes, man. Anyway, it's a good day.
It's a great day.
Okay.
You're right, I do get in your dome.
Anyways, boys, what are we talking about here today? Because clearly this isn't going to be a fucking UFC battle episode. So what's going on?
We're going to talk a little shop about nutrition. You know, some things that we see in the industry, some things that we see overall, some things that we believe. Like the first thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to nutrition is just context. You know, like there's so many things that you see online that are saying one thing or another, but context is king. And you can just think about a really basic, simple example of context is like someone will say carbs are bad. It's like, no, carbs aren't bad. If you're training for a marathon or if you're lifting weights hard, you need carbohydrates. You need quite a few of them. If you're not too active, maybe you're only working out 30 minutes a day and not doing really any other activity other than that.
Or not working out at all.
Yeah, you probably don't need too many carbohydrates. So there's a million things we can go off on that, but like, yeah, we'll start it off with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think context is key no matter what you're talking about, whether it's in the health and fitness realm or any other realm of life. Like context is always so key, and sometimes what works for one person may not work for the other person. Now, I do think that there are some like general things that people need to follow when it comes to nutrition that, context aside, it's just like if you are hitting these certain things like half of an ounce of water per pound body weight per day, or 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound body weight per day, getting a good variety of micronutrients through a wide range of vegetables and fruits, and sourcing your food properly. Like, I don't think there's any context needed when you're talking about stuff like that.
I think there is a bit though. Like I think a lot of people don't understand the importance of sourcing their food from a high quality source.
Yeah, but I don't think there's context needed to say that like you just should be doing it. Like I'm saying there's no context needed to be like you should be sourcing your food properly. You should be consuming X amount of protein. You should be consuming X amount of water as like baseline general recommendations. I don't think anybody could really challenge you on.
Well, the protein one people could probably challenge you on, because like if you look at like what background are you coming from, like what's your ethnicity, what's your ancestry look like, because protein intake is probably going to be different for like somebody that grew up in Vietnam versus somebody that grew up in up north Canada.
Yeah, that's definitely fair, but there's like scientific proof that you need 0.73 grams of protein per pound body weight to make sure that you're maintaining bodily functions that just need to happen. So tissue repair, hair, skin, and nails, muscle, just healthy functioning cells, like everything, you need that amount of protein. So like as the literature would state right now, that's like there's no context needed. You need 0.73 grams of protein per pound body weight.
Yeah, but I think if you're basing all of your nutrition decisions off literature, you're making a massive mistake.
100%.
Because
yeah.
Epidemiological nutrition is actually probably one of the worst places of science in the entire world.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, like, so what other figure is, for example, just going off the protein intake, what other figure could you use to somebody as a general guideline where like context isn't even needed? Hey, you should consume, if someone's like, how much protein do I need to consume? You're not going to say to them, well, what's your background? And this is really going to depend on so many things. If it's a random stranger walking up to you on the street and they somehow recognize you and they're like, hey, how much protein should I have? You're going to say, well, minimum 0.73 grams per pound body weight. So, but yeah, going back to like the first statement of like context is key in nutrition, I think 100% it is. But like I said, I do think there are some things within the realm of nutrition that you don't need context for. And I know you were about to start talking about the importance of sourcing your food properly.
Yeah.
So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think for a lot of people, when they think about sourcing their food properly, a lot of times it's like about ethics, like, oh, the animals are being treated better, or it's better for the environment. These are all true, but when it comes to like, that would be, I guess, from a spiritual health perspective, that's important. But just from like a health of your physical body, I don't think the average person understands enough how vital it is to have your food being grown in high quality soil so that the micronutrient, vitamin, mineral value in that food is high. The enzyme value is high. Same thing for like organically, properly raised cattle. You're going to get way higher micronutrients in your meat. You're going to get way more fat soluble, high amounts of protein, high quality fats. Just the idea that you should be sourcing food from an ethics perspective, I think people need to really realize, like, if you're not sourcing your food from organic regenerative farms, you're getting such a decrease in the actual potential of that food to provide you with the substrates your body needs for health.
Yeah. I think that is coming into light a little bit more in just because of like social media, and people are actually really starting to like harp on it, even though OGs like Paul Chek have been talking about this for like 20 years or more. One thing when it comes to like organic foods that are grown in high quality soil, if somebody were to say like, oh, well, I buy my food from the grocery store, but I only buy organic in the grocery store, like, I think it's very safe to say that, like, okay, it's probably better than buying the alternative version in the grocery store. But do you think that that's not enough for people? Like, they need to make sure they go the extra mile to essentially avoid buying any produce from big chain grocery stores like Loblaw, Superstore, all that type of shit, and instead focus their efforts on finding local farmers markets and farms to buy their produce.
I think they should try their absolute best to, yeah. I mean, and we would be talking shit if we said every single thing we eat always is purely organic from a high quality farm. There's stuff that isn't here and there, but making it a point to do it, I think everyone should. And I'll say too, a lot of people will bring up the cost factor. Like, oh, it's way more expensive to buy food from a regenerative farm and to shop at a local market. And that's true. But I think where you can challenge people on that is like, if you just say to yourself, I am only going to shop from these places, you're going to cut way down on like just little bullshit that you buy at the grocery store, little things you pick up, and your health is going to be improved vastly because you don't have the option to buy that box of crackers or that frozen thing. Like, I think if budget conscious people can still do it, it just means they're going to have to cut out a lot of bullshit from their diet, which is one, going to help them, and two, going to cut down on the grocery bill.
And there's also a lot of people that are in the place to do so that would probably give you the answer of like, oh, I'm too busy or I don't have the money. And like a lot of those people, it, like you said, if they really made a conscious effort, probably could. But to play devil's advocate as well, like, it also would be very hard for, I think, a lot of people, like, and my point on this was, I was thinking back to like when we were growing up, like, could mom and dad have afforded to do that? Fuck. Maybe, but with all the other stressors that were going on in their life, would it really have been feasible for them to be like, I'm going to go to a local farm or a local farmer's market every Saturday, when financially maybe they weren't in the right spot? They had 3 young boys that they were trying to keep in hockey and they were busy with that and blah, 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 blah. And there's a lot of people, like middle-class, hardworking people. So I also don't want it to come across like, oh, if you're not doing X, Y, if you're not getting this amount of protein, if you're not getting from a regenerative farm, like, you're not doing the right things. At the end of the day, like, if you're going to a grocery store and you're filling your cart with fruits and veggies and meat and fish, even if it's from a grocery store, you're going to be far ahead of a lot of people.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Like,
and I think
like you said, we started off the podcast by talking about context, and I think it's important from that perspective as well, because I don't want to be like the fucking guys that only say like, oh, you need to do this, this, and this, whereas like the average Joe that's trying to do their best, but maybe they're barely scraping by, is now listening to it and they're like, well, fuck me, I don't even have a choice to be as healthy as I can be now, because these guys are telling me that I need to do all these things that I don't have time for. I can't allocate my energy towards, because it's allocated to working shift work at a fucking factory and I have 4 kids that want to play sports. Like, do the best you can.
I 100% agree, like fully, wholeheartedly. And I think when you look at trends on social media and just in life in general, health is becoming a very like affluent thing because like you need all of these fucking things to be healthy, and it's bullshit. I think if you're like, yeah, you know what, I can't afford to go to a regenerative farm, I need to just go to the grocery store. Yeah, just buy fruits and vegetables there, buy meats there, try and stay away from processed stuff. You're still going to be 100% healthier than someone eating a typical diet.
Yeah. I would almost make it like, if somebody says to you, I don't have the resources to allocate towards making that decision, like, or like going through that decision, ask them like, okay, what are your current stress levels in life right now? Like, are you at a 9 out of 10? And does that have to do with family, financial, blah, 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 work? If they're like, if they come across to you or they've literally told you like, I'm not that stressed. Like, I go out on weekends for dinner. I hang out with friends. I like, I drive a decent car. I have a decent job. That person all day can listen to what we're saying about, like, if you want to make the best decisions for your health.
For sure.
Like, I think, again, I also don't want to make it sound like a lot of people can't make it work. A shit ton of people that aren't making it work can make it work.
And one thing I'll say, not to get too far into fairyland here, but it's true. What we need for the global population to become healthy and for the environment to be healthy is for local regenerative farms to be a staple of communities, and for governments to help subsidize and make markets and that kind of food more available. Because all that's going to do is repair the soil health, repair the health of the microbiome for all of us, repair the cellular health for humans, and also repair the environment. You think of how much of your food is shipped in from here, there, and everywhere. Like, if you guys are listening to this podcast, watch The Dirt Facts by Paul Chek and just see how much we have fucked our farming systems.
It's called The Dirt Facts on YouTube.
It's called The Dirt Facts.
Yeah.
And I would recommend anyone who is passionate about health or just passionate about learning to watch that series and realize the corruption that's gone on with our food systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what a lot of people don't, well, maybe they do realize, but like this way of farming has not been happening for a long time in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Like
Post-industrial revolution.
This is a pretty new concept or like way of living that humans have, when you look at all of history, that we're currently engaging in. And it's almost like we don't even fully, and we don't fully understand the negative outcomes that this is going to have. And people just think like, because your whole lifetime you've been buying fruits and vegetables in the grocery store, so it's just like normal for us. But like, this is only like such a small snapshot in time where we've been eating food that has been produced in this mass manner with all these like pesticides and fungicides and all this type of bullshit that they're spraying on the crops, and like the soil is just completely dead. So,
and like, I also understand that there's multiple co-founding factors, but you can't tell me that the way that we're currently farming and the way that we're producing food and the way that we're eating isn't massively leading to the mental health and physical health crisis that pretty well every Western developed nation has.
Yeah, 100% it is. Like, you can't, like the saying, like, you are what you eat. It's like,
you literally are.
You literally are. And if you're getting your food, your fuel from soil that's depressed, essentially, like that's one way of looking at it, like depleted, depressed, you can think same thing. Like, if you were to look at the soil of a commercially farmed field, like crop,
like
you would pick
soil from that.
You would pick it up and it would just like dust would fly off and it would be gray and it would just like crumble through your hand. You'd be like, what the fuck is that? It looks like I'm eating something that's grown in gravel. Whereas like if you look at what healthy soil looks like, it's rich, dark, like vibrant. You smell it. It has that like earthy smell to it. So if you're eating foods that are grown in this completely depleted environment, I mean, you are what you eat. You're probably going to feel the same way.
Yeah. And it's like you're a microcosm of the macrocosm at all time points. So
yeah,
whatever's going on to the earth and is going on to the soil is going on to you internally. Yeah. And there's no way around that. You look at how much it's increased Crohn's disease, IBS, all of these things. You have to think. Actually, there's a great gastro. I can never pronounce the word right. He's a
gastroenterologist or whatever.
However the fuck you say it. Dr. Prawn on Instagram, and I've read a lot of his stuff. he is a trained gastro, and he fundamentally believes you could fix pretty well all IBS, Crohn's, colitis, the whole shebang, aside from a very small percentage that are like genetically predisposed, just by having people eat from regenerative farms.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably not far off. Like,
because the other thing too, that like it's like, yeah, the soil quality, like, but if he says just eat from regenerative farms, that also is like,
Yeah, but that's part of his point.
exactly, right? So it's like, yeah, you're eating things that are grown in healthy topsoil, but you're also not eating fucking bags of chips or popsicles or whatever the fuck else it is that you're eating. Like,
Yeah.
if you're eating from, if somebody's like, here's the regenerative farm, grab your food, that's all you got. It's like all you have access to is fruits, veggies, meat. Maybe they got some fish. Like,
yeah, but
whatever.
also like the idea isn't that you're a perfect human being that doesn't have faults or vary from that way of eating. It's just like make the 90-10 rule. 90% of the food that you eat on a day-to-day basis, you know, like the sweet potato and the eggs that you have for breakfast are from a regenerative farm. The chicken and the spring salad that you have at lunch is from the farm. The steak and the white potato and the carrots that you have at dinner are from the farm. And then, yeah, on a Tuesday night when you do Taco Tuesday, maybe the meat is from the farm and everything else that you throw in the taco, the guac, the sauces, the spices, whatever, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Or like on a weekend, you order a pizza from your favorite pizza spot in town and you know they're not using that type of shit, but you don't care. So it's just like, yeah, I mean, if that's how you are consuming your food, I think that's all really he's saying is like,
yeah,
that in my eyes is perfect. Like being perfect is impossible. So like the perfect scenario is 90% of the time you're eating foods from these regenerative farms, and then 10% of the time you're saying fuck it.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to switch the topic a little bit just because there's a few things I want to get through on this podcast. Just disposing like a few typical myths for people and kind of our fundamental beliefs on them. So I'm going to throw this one to you, Jake. Give me your thoughts on fasting, why it's beneficial, and how it's overhyped.
Well, I think fasting, I'll say it for me personally.
And I'm talking intermittent here. Not long duration.
Yeah. I think if you're looking at intermittent fasting, some of the main benefits that you could feasibly say are kind of true across the board, maybe not across the board, but for most people, is just shortening your eating window. That's essentially what people are doing. So if you have a shortened eating window, say you stop eating at 8 p.m. and then you don't eat the next day till noon. Well, now you only eat from noon till 8, so it's 8 hours. If you get 3 healthy meals in 8 hours, like 3 good sized meals, you're probably not reaching for snacks. So shortening the eating window can definitely oftentimes lead to not eating as much or like snacking as much. Another one for me personally is productivity and clarity throughout the day. So especially early on in the day, being in a fasted state, having to sit down and do work, whatever it is, like I always feel dialed in. So that is a big motivator for me in terms of just not eating early in the day. I think one of the main like myths that people kind of fall into is that when you fast, you burn more fat, or like fasted cardio is like you're going to burn fat, which is just complete bullshit. The only way that you're actually going to burn body fat is by being in a caloric deficit.
If you're fasted during cardio, you might be able to but you might be able to use fat as an energy source for aerobic work better. Like you might become more efficient at that.
Yeah, but
like
that's completely different from fat loss.
Yeah. But you're
so explain that though. The difference between burning fat as substrate versus losing fat on the body.
Yeah. So I mean, you just have to look at fat loss as a calories in, calories out approach. So when you're fasted and you're doing cardio, maybe you are using more fat as fuel because you don't have any food in your system, right?
You don't have carbohydrates, glycogen, etc.
So, or maybe you do, but like because you still have it in your muscle, but you're not using it as fuel. So you're using a ton of fat as fuel, right? But then as soon as you eat your next meal and you replace that energy that was lost in the workout, you're just going to go back to burning carbohydrates. So think about it this way. You're fasted, you're burning fat, you start eating at noon, your maintenance calories should be 2,500, but you eat 3,000. During that eating window, you are going to be burning zero fat because you have a plethora or an abundance of calories in your system for your system to burn through. And then at the end of the day, you have 500 calories left over that, okay, well, the fat that you burned in that workout, well, now you have 500 calories left over. And because you ate all day, your muscle glycogen is full. So you're going to store it as body fat. Or you take, for example, somebody that doesn't fast at all and they wake up and the first thing they do is eat a banana and they go into the gym. That workout, they're not going to be burning as much fat. But at the end of the day, instead of eating their maintenance of 2,500 calories, they only ate 2,000. Now they're actually going to have more fat loss or fat burning throughout the day. And it's just like an accumulative factor. So yeah.
So fasted cardio, yes, you might be able to become more efficient at burning fat as a fuel source for aerobic work, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be losing body fat at the end of the day if calories aren't equated for.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, you will burn more fat during your fasted workout, but it all depends on what you do with your diet for the rest of the day and where your calories are at the end of the day.
Yeah. One more that I wanted to touch on that I think is super dangerous, and having been in the industry for a lot of years now, I see a lot of issues with this, is people losing too much weight too quickly and thinking it's good. Like, oh, I'm down 12 pounds this month. But I say someone that weighs 145 pounds and they lose 12 pounds in a month. Like, people need to understand the metabolic changes that happen there and what happens to your metabolism. Like, if you get used to taking in 1,000 calories every day, your body is going to get really efficient at operating on those 1,000 calories a day. And it's going to decrease a ton of things. I'm not going to go into them. But what's going to end up happening is when you go back to normal life and you're eating 1,700 or 2,200 or 2,500 calories a day, your body's going to be like, I just got really efficient at operating on 1,000 calories. I'm going to keep doing that. And all the additional calories, I'm going to now store as body fat in case you decide to starve me again. So for people listening, like, if you are going to lose weight, take it slow. Like, you should lose no more than 10% of your overall body weight every week. And that's like the very high end.
Yeah, that's like that's an insanely high end. That's like if you are somebody who's severely like
overweight. That's what I mean.
Like obese. Yeah, even that seems like high for sure.
Yeah.
A good general rule to follow is 1 pound a week.
Exactly.
Right. And you average it out over the course of the week. So you could weigh yourself on Monday and then not weigh yourself till Friday and be down 4 pounds. But that could just be because you drank less water the day before. So you really need to make sure that you weigh yourself every single day. Or if you don't want to weigh yourself every day, once a week on the same day, and just look at it from week to week. Ideally, it's you weigh yourself every day. You take the average from 1 week to the next, and you see you should be around 1, maybe 2 pounds a week.
Yeah. Like if you weigh 170 pounds and you want to get down to 150, so you want to lose 20 pounds, give yourself 3 to 6 months to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because the one thing that people really need to the goal is actually, if you're in a fat loss phase, you want to drop body fat, there's a huge difference between dropping body fat and just losing weight. A lot of the time, if you lose weight too quickly, you're going to lose a ton of muscle mass. Mm-hmm. And the ideal ratio for fat loss to muscle loss when you are losing weight, because it's almost impossible to not lose muscle if you're in a caloric deficit for an extended period of time, is 80% fat, 20% muscle. You see a lot of people that are losing weight way too quickly, and they'll be 50-50, half the weight loss is fat, half the weight loss is muscle, and then they just have that skinny fat look.
Well, also too, then metabolically long term, for your long term health, we everyone in our industry that works at a high level knows how important it is to have lean muscle mass as you age. So if you're a 50-year-old woman and you just lost 20 pounds, but half of that was muscle, you're gonna have to work your ass off to put that back on.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a good way to end the podcast here. A little bit of advice for people.
And hey, if you're listening to this and you're healthy and you work out, you exercise, and you watch what you eat, I got a better idea. And that's just stop worrying about the fucking scale so much.
100%.
Be grateful that you're not somebody that needs to worry about it. Because there's people, for the sake of their life and their health, they need to be worrying about the scale. If you're somebody that just maybe wants to get a little leaner for summer, or there's an event that you're looking towards and you want to get leaner, but you got your health in check, just take it a little easy on yourself and be grateful that you're not somebody that scale is completely out of whack and a massive detriment to your fucking health.
Yeah.
Because you could, perspective on that too. Stop being so caught up with what the scale says. How do you feel? How are your exercise sessions going? What's your energy like? What's your mood like? What's your sex drive like? Whatever. Focus on other things. Don't focus on a number on a scale.
Here we go. Good episode, boys. We'll see you guys on the next one. The Primitive Patterns Podcast. It's time to live your mystery.